right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of The Sportsman. We got Joey D. We've got the Jet on with us today. Happy to be back. Going to talk a little college football, talk a little NFL playoffs. Joey D, how you doing today, man?
I'm great, man. I can't complain. Get back from the Dominican. It's actually cold as shit here in Florida right now. Raining, um, really cold. But yeah, I'm good. We missed last week's episode. Obviously, if you haven't tuned in, Mikey announced that he's got a lot of stuff going on. I gotta give kudos to the young man because he did a lot for the sportsman, but just family life, kids, work, the whole nine yards. Just a busy guy. So for the foreseeable future, Mikey's not going to be on the show. He might pop in from time to time, but we wanted to thank him for everything he did. He was a great asset to the show. And you know what they say, Tick, the show must go on and the show will go on. And whether or not we find a replacement, we don't know. But we have a guest today with us, the one and only Binyamin Shicker, aka the Jet, aka Peter.
Yeah,
Welcome aboard.
yeah. The show's just not the same without Mike, you guys. I miss him dearly. Who's he just had the best takes out of the three of you.
Sure,
So,
he sure did.
no.
People are going to think the show now is going to lack intelligent sports takes, but hey,
Oh,
you know what?
sure.
That's never what it's been about. So
It's never
we're going
once
to keep
been
it
what it's
moving.
Exactly. Yeah. It
We're
won't,
going
I'll
to
tell
keep
you
it
what,
moving.
it won't lack clownery. So if you're looking
No,
for clownery,
a lot
you're in
of
the right
clown.
place.
If you're
Yeah.
looking for good
Yeah.
takes, check out Colin Cowherd, aka the first clown take in sports.
Hey, LeBron.
Yeah, sure. Hey,
Ben
LeBron,
Simmons is here.
we're good.
Ben Simmons, have
I
you
had
heard of
never
him?
seen that clip until you showed me. And then I saw like at TikTok, it was like the 5 times he was so incredibly wrong. And there's one clip where he's like, I could tackle Baker Mayfield.
He hated Baker Mayfield for some reason.
Yeah.
Part of the
Yeah,
program
man.
too.
Well,
Had a great year.
God forbid a guy leave the show without people thinking there's beef. Love Mikey to death. There's no problems. Love him to death. Going to see him soon, to be honest. And wish him the best. He's just a busy guy and he's doing his thing, man. So, as Joe said, the show must go on, and Ohio State football must go on. Let's head to
Yeah.
that college football championship. They took down Notre Dame. Jet, let's start with you, man. What'd you see there?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what I didn't see was the game.
We were in the
Because
Dominican.
we were in the Dominican filming for Bob Does Sports, and we filmed all day. We came back to get dinner, and then on the TVs I couldn't even find the game. Sometimes
No,
if you're overseas, like even if the game's on ESPN in the US, it'll like be on Fox Sports overseas, or I couldn't find the game, and it was
ESPN Deportes.
yeah, ESPN Deportes or like beIN Sports or one of these nonsense networks. But I couldn't find the game. I was trying to follow it on my phone. It seemed to me like it was kind of a blowout. I guess Notre Dame made it close at the end. I feel like Ohio State was the favorite all year. They played down to a few teams. They played down to Nebraska this year, and they obviously played down to Michigan. And there were a couple other teams they let linger around. That was the only reason anybody thought that they were going to
When they lost to
win,
Oregon.
because they were the perennial, in my opinion, they were the best. The talent wise, they're the best team in the country. Every player on that offense is unbelievable. The receivers, the running back they got a bunch of transfers. Their defense
Judkins,
back,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
Judkins.
so when they made the postseason and they played their best ball at the best time, and they peaked at the best time, and they honestly ran like they didn't have. I guess maybe with Texas they had a small problem, but they ran through everybody. Notre Dame was a team, in my opinion, that kind of overachieved. So it was not surprising that they won. I'm happy for Ohio State. I'm happy for Mikey. I still think the fans are a little obnoxious, but it is what it is. They did it all. I think it sucks for them. I shouldn't say sucks for them. They won the Natty. They lost to Michigan, which with that also, I think it just gave people reason to doubt them, even though they lost to Michigan. They can't beat them 4 years in a row. It is what it is, but they're still the best team in the country, and they dominated the postseason. I will say it was a great day for Jesus and for Christianity out there. They were the two. I'm not even kidding. They first of all, Notre Dame's quarterback I love this guy. He's the best. He's the most humble guy in the world, and he's just praying the gospel everywhere he goes. And I'm happy for them, and I'm happy for that. And Ohio State's here. Good for them.
Hey, maybe he should start praying for touchdowns.
Yeah,
because he didn't get quite
Jesus.
nearly enough.
Yeah.
Well, they
Touchdown
manufactured
Jesus,
an unbelievable drive to start the game that took up like half the quarter. with Riley Leonard eventually going into the end zone, and we were sitting across from each other, and I looked at Jen, I was like, Notre Dame's winning 7-0. And with the little data that we had, he managed to
I
find
used
his
Cussy's
way
phone.
onto a sports book and live the shit out of Ohio State. And it was the play. And Ohio State was, like you said, a different team in the playoffs than they were. I don't think that they were a bad team in the season, but when they lost to Michigan, everybody just counted them out, like you said, Jet. And I think that there are certain rivalries in sports that are bigger than just regular season football. That's arguably the biggest rivalry in all sports. And Michigan, for whatever reason, has owned Ohio State the last few years. And, it's just it's just you can't Mikey said it before on the show. You put aside all spreads, you put aside all whatever it might be, and those games are played different than any other game. And I think when they lost that game, people just counted Ohio State out. I actually put a future on Ohio State before they played Oregon. And it worked out in my favor. Now, but talk about one of the hardest roads to winning a
So I was
national
going to
title.
say, yeah.
Tennessee is no slouch. Then you take on Oregon, right? And Oregon was the number one team in the country. They beat them. Then they went ahead and they beat Texas, who, by the way, Texas was a really, really good team. And then they beat in the national title Notre Dame. So just an epic run. Ryan Day goes from GOAT to hero. I think like if you're an Ohio State fan, you go from being in the dumps of all hell, losing to your rival Michigan in a horrible loss that you should have won, to all of a sudden now you're national title champion. So good for them, good for Mikey, good for Ohio State. Um, Honestly, the playoffs, I know that the final game was not really that close, but the playoffs as a whole, I think was a huge success. I don't know what you guys think, but like the new format, bringing in new teams, more playoff games. I thought there was a ton of awesome games total, and I thought it was really exciting and enjoyable to watch, even as an objective like fan who doesn't really have a team in the game. I thought it was awesome.
I mean, yeah, you get better games at the end of the year. I mean, you get so many of them. People want to shit on Tennessee there for a while, saying it was a down year for the SEC. Still a great team, like you said. Then Joe, Texas, and Oregon. They had to beat both those. Which at one point Texas was number one in the country. Oregon was number one in the country when they beat them. Ohio State did everything they were asked of and more, and it was quite impressive, man. There's nothing you can. As much as I'd love to take something away from them, because I agree with Jet that their fans are. I'll go above and beyond there. I think they're scumbags. I think most of their fans are just
Whoa!
absolute. But you know what else?
Oh,
So are Michigan fans. I think they all are.
They ran
I think they ran Kirk. What were you gonna say, Kirk Cousins?
They ran Kirk Herbstreit out of town.
Oh,
They'll
Kirk
run you
Herbstreit.
out of the fucking the country. Do you imagine what they'll do to you, Pop?
Yeah, I think they're still working on fucking bigger fish to fry than myself. But
as far as we know,
I-
Pop might not even be in the country anymore, to be honest.
True.
He looks like he's in Tokyo, Japan with that
Yeah.
backdrop there.
I'm in the country's first capital, Joseph, Philadelphia.
Great city.
But yeah, I mean, I thought the playoff was an absolute success. I thought it was. I was getting real sick of these random bowl games at the end of the year. Half of them meant nothing, and then you just select the best team at the end there. So I thought it was great. I thought it was phenomenal, and you better believe that the SEC will be back and they'll run the table at some point. This year it was the Big Ten. It happened to be the first year. But Jed, how'd you like it?
How did I like what?
Just the college
format
football
he's
playoff, the
talking
new
about.
format.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's good. I mean, it's a little too professional for me. I think it's good, but it didn't seem like, I don't think the ratings were good. I don't know if people liked it. It seemed like the scheduling was off. I didn't like the seeding. I'll tell you that much. I didn't think it was fair that Oregon had to play Ohio State in the second round. I think that the buys got to go in terms of division conference winner buys, though they got to figure
I agree
something
with
out
that.
for those. And I don't know. I think, to be honest, I think if you look at it overall, it was not a success in terms of the games, and I guess they just want more teams in, and obviously they want to make more money off it.
But there were some great games, Jet. Even
jury's-
ASU versus Texas.
Yes,
was an
but there
awesome
were
game.
there were more bad. The round
There were
first
more
round
blowouts.
stunk.
I hear what you're saying.
Is that
Yeah.
listen? I think it did not pan out the way it was. People were trying, and I thought it was going to be incredible, and it was okay. I also think the games were on like weird days. Like
Yeah.
Would you get rid of the buys altogether, or would you just get rid of the conference buys, the conference winner buys?
No, I don't. It's not fair though, because then what happens is no conference. Like Boise State would never get a bye in that case, even if they're the number one team. Like
Yeah, but I
because
think
they'll never
though,
be ranked the number one team. It's like it's not fair. So I
I
don't
think they
know.
should get, if you win your division, like if you win the Mountain Division, you should get a spot in the playoff, but you shouldn't necessarily get a bye.
Of course, but
Like,
then they'll never get a bye because the buys will only go to the big time schools, which is not fair either. I don't think there's a perfect system. It's also weird watching college football in late January. Like this, it's the season's been over. Like the bowl games are. I don't.
I
It's
thought
a little
it was
weird.
great.
It's a
Because you
little
get
A lot
more
more
weird.
football, man.
opportunities.
Sure, I listen.
Yeah.
I
And
like.
Chad, you got more opportunities
To
to.
make a little
enjoy,
cash.
I enjoy it.
Oh, and did he ever? He went on a run of runs.
Oh, jeez.
He sure did.
Guy scrapers.
Skyscrapers.
All
If you ever
right,
watch the
well,
Bill and Dumb Show, go check it out.
I think anyone who's watching this show has probably seen it. But yes, if
Yeah.
you're not watching the Brilliant Dumb Show, head that way and you can see what we're talking about. All right, well, that's a wrap on the college football season. Let's move it on over to the NFL playoffs. Divisional round. Let's start with them Chiefs taking care of business against the Texans. They ended up winning 23-14. Joey D, what'd you see there?
Again, a Chiefs team that's not winning in convincing fashion. I thought they played solid, but that offensive line got beat up, man. The Texans found a recipe to get to Mahomes early and often to disrupt the offense. Mahomes is one of the best to do it, so he was able to maneuver still and make plays happen even when he was under duress. That one touchdown he threw to Travis Kelce was sheer brilliance. The guy's literally falling down and is able to make a 15, 20-yard pass into the end zone and find Kelce. I mean, he just makes plays that the average quarterback cannot. But I thought the game plan that the Texans put together from a defensive side was pretty flawless. I thought they played well. And you know what? They hung around there. They were there right up until the end of the game. But yeah, the Chiefs move on. But again, I'm just not sold on the Kansas City Chiefs yet. Like, this is a team that they should have easily, run away with. That being said, playoff football, anything can happen. They won. They're moving on. They're in the conference championship, which they seem to be every year now. But yeah, I thought it was not a convincing win by any shape or form.
Jet?
I mean, I saw the greatest push of all time when the Chiefs punter ran out of the end zone for a safety to make it a 9-point game. And if you had +9 or +8.5, or +9.5, that was a special moment for you. I saw same thing. I just, the Chiefs, they do this every year in the playoffs. They scrape by, they go down. I mean, they didn't go down in this game, but they go down and then they come back and then they, squeak it out at the end. I'm very anti the bashing of like officials and refs and rigging and all that bullshit. With that being said, that was that was a lot, and it was very obvious. And like the roughing the passers and the this and the that, and like Mahomes running out of bounds, but like stopping slow so he can flop out of bounds. Like, man, they got to figure something out there. And listen, the Chiefs are the better team. I did think the Texans could make a run at it, and they did. They almost tied the game. If their kicker had his shoes tied, they might have made a couple more field goals and an extra point.
Baron was not good.
He missed 2 field goals and an extra point. He left 7 points on the board. They lost by 9. They would have been right there. When they went down the field, scored the touchdown, and missed the extra point, and they were down 14-13. It was like, man, they really had a chance there. And now the Chiefs have some momentum and some hope because they're still in the lead, and they just walked down the field and scored. Mahomes is incredible. The throw he made to Kelce was amazing. I thought Taylor Swift sat very nicely in her suite. That was great. I thought she clapped at the right times. And Caitlin Clark did a great job as well. And that's my opinion on the
game. That one roughing the passer initially looked egregious. Like, how could they fuck? But then he was borderline. At it, he headbutted him.
But you know what, Pop? One time There's no question that Mahomes and Josh and Allen and maybe Burrow, and there's 3 or 4 or 5 quarterbacks that do get treated differently. I shouldn't say Burrow because it seems like he's always on his ass and never getting called. But Mahomes and Josh Allen, and there's a couple other quarterbacks that
Mahomes the most,
calls, and that's how the league is. With that being said, I'd like to see a late hit roughing the passer not get called on Mahomes one time. Like just hit the guy, let him fall. Like have the ref just hold it in
it
the
was
box.
worse when Brady was playing. When Brady was playing, they'd touch the guy and he'd fall down.
You got to protect the golden goose.
It was just as bad, if not worse.
You got to protect the golden goose. But I just want, even if I was like an opposing team, it's like on the first drive of the game. Now you don't want to give the Chiefs 15 yards, but just light a guy up and be like, "Yo, we're here." You know.
I do agree in the sense that when he takes off running, he should be, he's fair game to be hit. Like, and he sometimes scrambles. And it almost looks like he's looking to initiate the contact just to be able to get the call, which, hey, he's smart enough that he's getting the calls. Why not keep doing it? You can't blame him. But I do agree. It's got to be looked at. I think back in the day when I was growing up, these quarterbacks were getting pillaged. And now it's like, you hit them down low, you hit them up high. It's like, where are you as a defensive player supposed to make the tackle, especially when you're going at full speed? Like, it makes it that much harder to play defense. So I get it. They're trying to protect the quarterback, but at the same time, like, it's a bit much.
Well, that stopped when Will Smith showed up and he's like, tell the truth. That's when they started, that's when all that stopped. But the other thing is that the sliding, I was thinking about this the other day. First of all, the late sliding is unfair. A QB running and then 1 fake sliding and 2, shout out Kenny Pickett, and 2 sliding is not cool. It's bullshit. And the other thing is that they created the slide for safety, right, for the quarterback. But in essence, it's a more dangerous, if you're on the ground, your head's just sitting there and defender's coming at you, it's more dangerous than if you're going head first. Now, I know, I understand the reasoning behind it, but it's impossible to judge the intentions of a defender when he's starting to lean out, and then all of a sudden your head goes from here to here. So now your head is in landing zone, is in your hitting area. It's so unfair to these defenders.
It could be worse. You could have targeting.
If there was targeting in the NFL, I'd be out of hand. Targeting,
and then they slow it down too with slow motion, and it's happening in split seconds for these guys, and it's impossible to redirect yourself. Yeah. It's kind of gross, but I like you said, they're trying to protect their cash cows, and that seems to be the offensive players, specifically the quarterbacks. Real quick before we move on to the next game, the NFC game, the Lions and Commanders, you two were at each other's throats. And I kind of came in for half of it. I don't totally know what went on, but did someone call it early that the game was over, or something happened between the two?
We had a 37-yard field goal that would have literally it would have won the game for us because we had Jet had +9, I had +10 or +9.5, and so the field goal would have brought it down to 8, so we would have won. And I looked at Jet and Bob was there. I was like, Bob, we're about to cover. And Jet lost his mind. And just to play into the game script, the universe decided to have the Chiefs block the field goal. And then Jet looked like he was going to kill me. What ended up happening then, the Chiefs went 3 and out. They were pinned deep. And instead of punting the ball, which, would have given the Texans an opportunity to potentially run the ball back for a touchdown, which probably wouldn't have happened. They opted to run the ball into the end zone, take the safety, and then the game was essentially over. But by doing that, it brought the spread from 11-9. So Jet pushed. I won. Bob won. Bob and I went off on Jet. Bob was telling him to fuck himself, and that was that. It was a whole scene, man.
I firmly believe that if you're betting on a game and you say something before it happens, you
no control
1,000% have something to do with the outcome. And by you saying we're about to cover, by you saying that we were about to cover before the kick, it'd be one thing if you were like, all right, we got a kick. This is out. Like, let's do it. You were like, oh, we're about to cover. And I was like, oh, like once he said that, it was over.
We got to send that clip to Mr.
It was
Anderson
blocked.
to put
and then thankfully we got the miracle at the end. But I'm very
I
superstitious.
never strayed faith in that game.
When
I
it
To
knew we
be
were
comes
always
fair,
to
Joe, if someone says that about a game and then it goes the opposite way, if someone else had said it, you would have been in their ass. You
I
would have.
may have, but Jet really he had to have
He
had a
did.
behemoth bet on that game because he went
I'm
ballistic.
I'm very superstitious when it comes to like
You are.
betting. Like I like if I'm
But
sitting
if
in a
you just think
chair,
about it, I
if
don't
I'm
disagree
sitting
with
in a
you.
chair and a team is fucking playing well, and then like somebody like I can't I gotta stay or if I, you gotta
You have to
stay
sit in the
there.
same
You can't
seat.
or yeah, everybody's yeah,
But Jed,
it's
if you just think about I by the way, I do agree with you. I'm on the same side as you. But if you just think of the logic behind it,
of
it's so
course.
batshit crazy that me saying something in a different
Oh,
country, not
yeah, I
even
know.
within the realm, it wasn't even in the same stadium, has no impact.
I
No
know, but
impact
it
on the
kind of
game.
did. It's
That
like
being
the
said, I
announcer.
agree with you. I'm
It's
superstitious too, and I got where you're coming from. Thank God for me they covered because I would never heard the end of it.
it's similar to the announcer jinx. Like,
Well,
they're
that's
like, he has
more
to miss the
likely.
field goal, and then now they're in the same stadium. They're there. It's a
The
little
worst
different.
is when they're like, he hasn't missed a field goal under 30 yards in
In 2 years.
5 years. And then he comes up and he
They
misses,
were
and
yeah.
then he misses. It
And
happens all
Cody
the time.
Parkey came up. They're like, he's never double doinked a kick, and then he just double doinked.
One of the crazier things I'll say, and you know what, I get it because the superstitious stuff. I don't subscribe to it, but I can get it, and I've seen it gone wrong for people enough times that I don't fuck with it if someone believes in that. But if you're with Jet and he's got you got the double box on, you're watching either two games, you're watching like UFC and the football. If you're committed to the UFC or to the football, you can't go to one or the other. Like he's got to keep the double box as part of the
Yeah,
superstition. Or the
yeah,
other way too, if you had been watching the double box, but then you go to just the game and something good happens, you can't go back to the double box to see
Back.
what was happening in the other game. You got to stay there because that's the
God,
good juju.
yeah, that's true. It's
It's
true.
great. All right, let's move on to the Commanders and the Lions. Another game that two of you guys were betting on that night. Commanders ended up taking care of business somewhat handily, winning 45-31. Jet, what'd you see in that game?
Um, I think that Dan Campbell is a glorified Gary Vaynerchuk. And I think that he is just a rah guy, and I love him, but I don't. He doesn't call plays on offense or defense. He just he's just there. They couldn't. First of all, I take it all back. The Commanders are better than we thought. The Commanders made that happen. Now I know the
Dan
Lions
Quinn is a
defense
good
is a shit
coach, by the
show.
way.
Dan Quinn, yeah. Well, maybe he'll turn his hat around one day. But he
Listen, man, the backwards hat
Jaden,
community. Listen, we're
yeah.
strong, dude. Come on.
Yeah. Jaden Daniels, I feel like Quinn is probably super sick. He probably won a game with the backwards hat 10 years ago. And it's like, I can't. He probably wants so badly to turn that shit around, but he just can't do it. Jaden Daniels is the real deal, I think. I mean, he made a lot of that happen on offense. And I think the Commanders are kind of like, yo, we're not messing around. Like, that was more about the Commanders than it was about the Lions to me. I mean, Jared Goff made some mistakes, but I was impressed with the Commanders. It'll be interesting this week against the Eagles.
Do you think
The
that Motor City Dan Campbell made a dire mistake in that game, or are you just saying in general he's a
No,
glorified?
I've never been a fan of the way he does his fourth and 22 going for it. It's 4th and 7. I firmly believe he blew the divisional game last year against San
Last year?
Francisco with all that stuff. And I was joking, obviously, about it. He's clearly a good coach. They love him. I think anybody would want to play for him. But they didn't. This is the second year in a row they came up short. So we'll see. A lot of people. A lot of people are saying Jared Goff doesn't have it. I disagree with that. I also think we just live in a world where you play. You play. Everybody's so quick to react. You play. Goff had a bad game, and everybody's like, "Oh my god, like he's the worst quarterback. He'll never win a championship. What does this say about his legacy?" And it's like, I like back in the day, Peyton Manning would throw 5 picks a game, and like no one gave a shit because that's how quarterbacks. That's what happens. But now you can't make one mistake without the world killing you. So it's
I
tough.
mean, he did. I think this is a combination of a couple things. The first thing was the Lions injuries finally caught up to them with the amount of guys they had out on defense.
Yeah.
That's tough to come back from, and they played unbelievable. And I think Aaron Glenn was great calling plays for them throughout the year, but it finally caught up to them. I think that was the first thing, and secondly, I don't think that Jared Goff is a bad quarterback, but you just look now at the big games he's been in, and he just doesn't win these big games. And you have to admit he threw what, three picks? He had a
Yeah,
fumble. Like, he did not play well. One of them was returned for a touchdown, so a pick six. And to me, that was a turning point of the game. Um, just a tough place to be. And the Lions, it's just got to be tough to be a Lions fan. You finally have this monumental season where they look unbelievable. You lose a guy like Aiden Hutchinson, you lose these players on defense, and it's like, they're still powering forward. And now, they just lost Aaron Glenn, who's now going to be the head coach of the New York Jets, and they just lost Ben Johnson, who's now going to be the Bears head coach. Those are two massive pieces of that organization. As you mentioned, Jet, they don't call, like, Campbell's not calling the plays. Those guys, I thought, had tremendous years. You lose both of them now. You got to bring new people in. And it's just going to be a tough road. The NFC is not going to get any easier for them. I think next year the Packers will probably be a better team than they were this year. The Vikings are still going to be a force, and the Bears are going to be better. That's one of the hardest divisions in football. So, tough break. That being said, Jaden Daniels, man, really stepped up. And I got to tell you something, not just Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin is, and Pop, you know what?
stud.
You have these takes sometimes that take a little bit longer to come to fruition. You said before you thought he was a top five. I think you said a top five receiver in the league. And no, no, no. I mean, this guy is a playmaker. He took what was a simple 5 yard, hitch route and fucking took it to the house and just, I mean, he is unbelievable. Jaden Daniels continues to make plays. And this team wants to win, man, and they are doing everything in their power. So, they're going to be a tough force to play against in Philadelphia in this upcoming week. It's not going to be easy. They just beat the Eagles a couple weeks ago in your own barn, and it's going to be a good game, but tough break for the Lions, man. Really, really tough.
Yeah, I tend to be a little ahead of my skis with some of these takes, like just maybe 2, 3, 4 years, a little premature. But and I still might be with Scary Terry. I mean, he's definitely a top 10 guy. I'm still not sure I put him in the top five. That might have been a little ridiculous of me. But regardless, he's a phenomenal player. He was dying in Washington until Jaden Daniels got there, and now he's really getting some room to stretch his legs, and he's been a huge piece of what they're doing. As is the Washington defense. I mean, they've been really good. They got that. Is it Bobby Wagner from Seattle?
Bobby
Isn't he?
Wagner, yeah.
He's
He's still
manning
in the
their
league,
defense.
still
He's
doing it. Yeah.
totally revamped the culture of that defense and the Lions. Man, as Joe said, that the defense is just depleted. It's going to be interesting seeing how much of Jared Goff's success in Detroit was Ben Johnson. We'll see what he ends up being next year. But even with Ben Johnson, he's come up small in some of these bigger games. Man, it's crazy. There's a few games where he's thrown like 3+ interceptions or had at least 3 turnovers, and they still put up 30 points. It's like they put up numbers regardless of how he's playing. And that has a lot to do with how great their running backs are. But it's going to be interesting to see what they can do, and it's going to be very telling for Dan Campbell, and it's going to be very telling for Jared Goff if they decide to even stick with them. It's possible that they maybe go somewhere else. I mean, there's a few guys out there. Sam Darnold is going to be a free agent. Maybe that's something they look at now. Is that just trading one similar guy for another? Possibly, but they could be in the market if the right thing comes up. Jared Goff, I would not be so comfortable keeping my job for next year. He'll probably keep it, but if the right thing comes up, the Lions
I
could be
mean, he
shopping.
was a
So we'll see.
potential
Agent?
MVP candidate for a lot of the year. I don't
I
think he's in
know, but
jeopardy of losing his job.
I think if the right thing came up, I think if the right opportunity,
He
if
a
the right
free
guy
agent?
fell,
Doesn't he have a big old contract?
He's
no,
got a
he's not a free
contract.
agent. But
He's
I
He
mean,
not
just
going
signed a big
anywhere.
contract.
he's not going anywhere. But I mean, wouldn't you think like you would? How many times are you going to run this back with him before
Yes,
like you
but
see this
I
happen?
think, yeah. I mean, I think if you have a quarterback like Jared Goff, like the NFL getting a good, it's so impossible. Like it's Dunder
If you're
Mifflin.
happy losing in the divisional round year after year,
Just pulling up the Dunder Mifflin mug.
if yeah,
It's like
dude,
Dwight Schrute over there.
If
yeah, man,
if
you're happy
anybody,
with mediocrity.
Jared Goff is a great quarterback in the NFL. I don't there's 25 quarterbacks worse than Jared Goff.
Yeah, I don't
You'll
think he's
call him
solely to blame.
you'd call him great. You call Jared Goff.
I'd
there
say
are no
he's
great quarterbacks.
very solid. He's a good
There's
quarterback.
four.
He reminds me a lot of Kirk Cousins, man. He just can be a total stud in the regular season. He gets the big contract. You think he's worth paying for, and then how often do you make it out of the first round,
Pop has
if
a
ever?
personal vendetta against Jared Goff. I also every year there's one team that gets a bye that lays a dud. Now it's less because there's only one team that gets a bye. But in the old days when there were two teams in each conference got a bye, one of them would show up and forgot how to play football in the divisional round.
It's true. It's true.
It happened all the time.
Yeah.
Do you believe in like buys, like just like kind of fucking teams over in sports,
Yeah.
like baseball? It
I think
happens
they're
a lot.
necessary, especially in football when you have so many injuries and you have so many things like that. People want to say the bye it hurts you, but I do believe it's definitely. I mean, you're literally getting to the next round of the playoffs. Like
I don't. Yeah.
you're eliminating a game. You're giving your players an opportunity to be healthy and rest up an extra week. And in such a bruising sport like football, I think it's an absolute advantage. Like anybody who says the bye is detrimental is full of shit.
Well, I think
I
it
don't
bangs
think
you a
the
lot more in
bye.
baseball. I think if momentum's a huge thing in baseball and you want to keep it rolling. But yeah, maybe you're right
Possibly.
there with
I don't
football.
think the bye. I don't think the bye hurts you, but I do think the winning momentum of a wild card team helps them. So if Washington, who won the week before, is coming in and off that momentum, playing a team who didn't win the week before, who is coming off of a bye, I think that helps teams like wild card teams that get hot in the postseason. They feel that momentum. They're like, we just won last week versus
Yeah.
coming into a game where you haven't won or where the other teams also won the week before. I think that plays into it, but the bye is probably more important than that. But
If you
yeah,
know how to play with the bye, aka the Kansas City Chiefs,
sure.
I mean, you're going to be in the NFC Championship or the AFC Championship
Yeah,
most
you just have to
years.
win one game.
You win one game, and you're playing against a team when you're the highest seed. That's like the Texans. Now that being said, we diminish what the Chiefs did, but they had to still win. The Lions had to win against a team that they were heavily favored against, and they couldn't do it. So it just goes to show football, it's a one and done, any given Sunday kind of deal. And, it makes it fair. But at the same time, I think if it was like you look at other formats like NBA or NHL, you got to win a best of seven. Like there's just not a world where a team squeaking through that's a big time underdog that's beating some of these big time,
Yeah.
heavy hitters that are high seeded. So the one game you win, you're in, you lose, you're gone. That definitely plays into the parity of an underdog for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and just to wrap it up with this Jared Goff thing, I just, yeah, he's one of the better quarterbacks, I guess, in the league. But how many times are you going to lose in the divisional round before you think maybe this guy coughing up the football 4 times a game is probably not going to help you go any further than that? But teams, right? I don't actually at Berkeley. I was a huge fan, and then when the Rams dropped, I was like, "Oh, the Rams are going to be really good." And then he's only, I mean, he's gotten to the Super Bowl. I know, but he kind of fucked up the Super Bowl too.
They put up 3 points in it, but they made it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, all right. Well, anyway, moving on here. Let's go to that Rams Eagles game. Another quarterback that maybe can't get you to the fucking Holy Land, but they ended up winning this game against the Rams barely in a snowball, 28-22. What'd you guys say?
Saquon Barkley, man. That's all I got to say. That was that. This guy is single-handedly transformed your team, Tick. You went from
Yeah.
who was the guy who went to the Lions? What was your running back?
No,
DeAndre
he went to the
Swift?
Bears. Yeah, he went to the
Or the
Bears.
Bears, but he went from the Lions to the Eagles and to the Bears. But
Right.
DeAndre Swift, who I think a lot of people were pretty high on last year that is this a solid running back. To then all of a sudden you get a guy in Saquon who went second overall in his draft year, perennially struggled with the Giants team that just offensively was challenged. And then comes to the Eagles and literally he has transformed his game. I mean, there's a statistic that he's not getting touched by a defender more than I think it's almost 2 yards after he from the line of scrimmage is when he's getting hit by a defending opponent. So this guy's running downhill. He's running hard. He makes that team so multidimensional. Where, to be honest, Tick, Jalen Hurts doesn't have to do that much. He just has to make plays when he has open receivers, and people have to respect the run with Saquon so much that it's going to open up, the receivers like AJ Brown, um, you know, what they call Goddard, and then
Bryce Mitchell.
the Slim Reaper. He's got so many weapons that it's like it shouldn't be hard. That being said, he still does not look like himself, Jalen Hurts. So it'll be interesting to see how they do against Commanders, but Saquon Barkley, man, is just 200 yards rushing. I mean, it's just the guy's outer worldly right now.
Jet.
I mean, I think the Eagles have kind of flown under the radar all year to the league. Everybody kind of wrote them up. They're incredibly talented. They're really good. They win a bunch of games. I've never in my life seen a fan base, and now knowing Tick, like as a diehard Eagles fan, like seeing how there is no fan base that puts more on one like regular season game than any fan base. I've never seen it. They're a great team, and they'll play a great game and like lose at the horn. I'm
They
like,
doubt the team
great
all
fucking
the
song.
time.
All right, Jalen's not the guy. These guys, I've never seen a fan base like it. It's insane. The Eagles fans are out of control, and they're always involved. In the last few years, they've always been good. I was concerned that they almost puked that game away at the end. That was horrifying. They
The
went
defense.
up 13. Saquon took the run. First of all, they turned Stafford over twice. They took the ball down to the 1 yard line and they made a false start on a push. They had to kick a field goal to go up 6. Okay. They get the ball back with 4 minutes left. Barkley runs 180 yards to the end zone. They're up 13 now. They're up 13 with 4 minutes left, and they let the Rams walk down the field to score before the warning, and then they give it back to them, and they're walking down the field again.
I know.
That would have been the end for the Eagles, knowing that fan base and how any other team would be like,
Sirianni would have been destroyed.
That was scary to watch. I also did have the Eagles, so it was scary for me as well. But it was scary. It was scary to watch, and it was alarming to watch. And when teams do that, it's teams that don't put away other teams when they have the chance. And I know a lot of teams are like this. You take your foot off the gas, but you're trying to make the Super Bowl here. Don't let a team down 13 beat you in the last 4 minutes. That was tough to watch. Now, next week's going to be interesting because I think it's very similar to last time. Now, I know Hurts got hurt last year. Though according to Eagles fans, Hurts stinks, so it shouldn't make a difference. But the Commanders, they got a chance here. They, in my opinion, the way they're playing. I think they're undervalued. Jaden Daniels is unreal. This offense is amazing. We'll see what happens.
The reason
we're looking at a dog play for Mr. Yaman.
I might.
Yeah,
go.
this is an easy Washington Commanders.
The line started at 4. I think it's up to like 6.
I was 5.5. I thought,
but I wouldn't be shocked if you sprinkle that money line though.
Yeah,
Mel. I would not be shocked.
No one doubts their team more than the Tick, man.
No.
The
So
Packers were down like 2 touchdowns, and he's like, don't count this team out. The Eagles will find a way to lose it. I was like, Tick, you're good, man. You're good. And by the way, I owe you a dinner ticket. I owe you a dinner.
Eagles throw up one squeaker a year. They lose to like the Giants, who are like 2-6 every year, and then it ruins their 9-0 record, and their fans just lose their fucking minds. And then they come out and win the next 5.
Well, let me tell you something. If you're a superstitious kind of guy, I got a text with 4 minutes left, right after Saquon scored that 180-yard touchdown, and we know what happens next because Jet just walked us through it. I get a text from Joey D after that touchdown. You're gonna crush the Commanders next week. I mean, talk about a guy.
I mean, that one's not as crazy.
The game was over.
First of all, the game was not over. We saw what happened. They almost puked it away. And then second of all, now we're sitting here talking about how the Commanders have a real shot in this game, and we're already calling that game. Okay? Yeah. Don't like that, first of all. Let me go back to how Eagles pick on one regular season game. It is supportive. I appreciate it, Joe. But let me bring it back to a regular season game, how we can just pick it apart. We're doing that because we have Super Bowl aspirations. So we're looking at this regular season game. We're watching Jalen Hurts throw a regular season game away against a pretty putrid football team and be like, is this what we can expect in the playoffs? So we're judging him based on how far we think he can take us in the playoffs because that's what those are our expectations. That's where we're at. We're not saying this one game matters. We're saying if he doesn't fix this kind of problem, it's going to come back and
Sure.
bite us in the ass come, playoff time, which is now. And I'm
You
still
know,
worried about that. I'm
you know
still
how
very worried about
you
that.
know how lucky you are to have Super Bowl aspirations.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know
I
what?
have I have beat the Panthers aspirations. Like it's ridiculous, dude. Like, and I get it. It's all relative. So
But let
now
me
you're
tell
there.
you,
You're like,
I would make an argument that watching your team fall short in the playoffs year after year is just
Well,
as
you
bad
watched
as
them win the Super Bowl,
because
what, 5 years ago?
I know you just won it.
Was it 4 years ago?
2017. It was 2017.
Was
It
it that
was
long
it
ago?
was 8 years
2007?
ago.
It
It was
doesn't seem
eight
that long
years
ago.
ago. Yeah, well, you know what it was. It was 8 years ago. And let me tell you something. At least your expectations for the Bears, you never get yourself ramped up. You never get excited. And I'm sorry about that. That
As
sucks.
a Packers fan,
But
I've been
but
doing that
it's
for a long time, Ticket. We've been falling short for years.
That's true.
For
We're kind
years.
of
We've been
similar.
the
You guys are
NFC
similar
we were the
teams.
NFC Championship
so
game, it
Joe,
seemed
you
like
can
every second year.
you can speak to it. Doesn't that suck getting yourself
It's
so
it's it's
excited?
it's it's mentally exhausting when
Yeah.
you go through the year and everyone and their mother tells you that this is the team that's going to win the Super Bowl, but you deep down think like we're going to find a way to fuck up the big game. And the 49ers are going to beat us for the 57th time in 60 years. It's really tough. Between the Seahawks and the Niners, I don't know how many times I had to watch this team who should have had 3 or 4 Super Bowls with Aaron Rodgers, like just come up short. And it happened
Yeah.
year after year after year. So I do get what Ticket's saying. But that being said, Ticket, you have a lot to be grateful for. This is a great team. And you know what?
So
All
that
your
being said, let me do exactly what everyone did to you to me.
I'm just
Listen,
saying, like,
Joe,
you got to
if
be
you
happy with
never
where
get
you're at. And Sirianni seems to be not getting into his own way, right? The last little bit. He's been for the most part, he's been okay. He hasn't been out of control.
let me tell you something, Joe, and this is what I envy about Bears fans, is if you never get excited about anything in your life, then you're never going to be disappointed because your
I
expectations, you're never up there. You know what I
don't
mean?
know that. I think the Bears have still disappointed people with no expectations,
Well,
to be honest. Well, I mean, it's
yeah.
the Bear Down was acting like they won the Super Bowl when they beat the Packers one game, and they hadn't beaten the Packers in like what 5 years? I don't even know how many years it's been. So it's been tough. Jet's right. It's been tough to be a Bears fan. And
It
Ticket,
has.
you're in a good spot. You're one game away from the Super Bowl, which you
When
should
did
go
the
to. Big O.
when did the Cubs win the World Series? Is that 2016?
Oh, a long time
16,
ago.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it was 1 year removed from the Eagles winning. So if that was a long time ago, think about that. But at
Yeah,
least
but
would you
they hadn't won in a million years. It was like a big. They don't ever have to win again.
the
Yeah.
Eagles had never won a Super Bowl either. That was their first one.
How many years? How long have they been a franchise for?
They're one of their
60s?
earlier teams. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How
Yeah.
about
That's true though.
1975?
That's true. That's true. That's true. I mean, you've seen all your teams win though, no? Except for the Bear. The Bears is the only team you haven't seen win of the
I've
Chicago
never,
teams.
I never see. I mean, the Bulls won when I was a toddler. That doesn't count.
Right. No, okay.
Um,
Fair enough.
so
The
no, they actually
Blackhawks,
not. The
the
Blackhawks
Blackhawks,
won.
the Cubs
I was never into high. The Blackhawks and the Cubs. And that was it. The White Sox won. I mean, I'm not a White Sox fan. They won in 2006, I believe.
with Mark
Um,
Burley.
Mark Burley was running around
Yeah, he
just
was.
throwing complete games in an hour and a half. Good times.
All right, let's move on to the last game we have here. It was Josh taking on the Ravens. It was a great game. It was by far probably the best game on the board
Oh,
this
yeah.
past week. And the Bills ended up taking care of business 27-25. What'd you guys see there?
Uh, tough first half for Lamar. He made some mistakes, and the turnovers eventually were the end of this team. I mean, Lamar throws an interception, then gets a fumble, then the Mark Andrews fumble. Like I feel like the Ravens just kind of got in their own way in this game because I feel like you take away those turnovers, and I feel like this is a team that probably could have or should have won this game. Um, Josh Allen was solid. The Bills defense made big timely plays when they need to, and that 2 point conversion drop from Mark Andrews is going to haunt a lot of Ravens fans for a while because that was, this guy's a Pro Bowl tight end to first get a fumble lost the drive before, and then to drop that 2-point conversion, which, by the way, I think we talked about it. I don't know why you don't just run Derrick Henry there. You're on the 1 yard line. The guy's a freaking bull. And just the high percentage play, just give the ball to Derrick Henry. The play call was good. You drop the ball and you move on. But tough scene. The Bills now have the Chiefs for, I don't know how many times they face this team in the playoffs and come up short. So huge opportunity for them to take care of business and move on. But what a game this was. It was awesome, back and forth. Just a really, really enjoyable football game to watch.
Jet?
Yeah, it was an awesome game. I go back and I don't want to harp on this. The Bills were up 21-10 at half, and then they just let the Ravens come right back. And I guess that's just what happens in this league. But the Bills look great, and then they couldn't really move the ball too much in the second half. They ended up kicking that field goal instead of getting that touch. They had that 3rd and 2 at the goal line that would have essentially put the game away, and they ended up kicking to go up 8. I don't know. The Ravens, Lamar Jackson is amazing. And then he just seems to make a few mistakes in the playoffs. I felt awful for Mark Andrews because of what you said.
Yeah.
He's an all pro. Like he's incredible. And I'm pretty sure he's a friend of the program.
He is.
So there's that. And it was just a well-fought game. The thing with those games is like those two teams, either of them could go and win the Super Bowl. They're playing each other in the divisional round. Like whichever team loses that game, their season is a complete failure to them. So it was going to happen one way or other. It sucks it happened that way, but I think the Bills played better and deserved the win.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's got to suck for the Ravens at this point. I mean, you've got one of the best teams in the league. You're stuck in a great AFC. You got to play a team like the Bills or the Chiefs every year in the divisional round. It sucks, and they just can't get it done. And I mean, and the other team too, they've had a hard time. They haven't gotten to the Super Bowl either. I mean, now Josh has to go and take on. They've got to play they had to play the Ravens. Now they have to play the Chiefs. I mean, and the Eagles are playing teams like the Rams to get there. I mean, it's just not fair, but I mean, it's the way it's turned out. But let's move on to next week. Let's quickly go through these conference championship games. First, we got the Commanders and the Eagles. The Eagles are favored by 6 points, over under 47.5. Gentlemen, who do you like in that game?
I think you take the points with the Commanders as a safe play. I do think the Eagles will win this game, but yeah, that's a lot of points. And the Commanders are playing good football. They just beat, arguably, going into that last week, people thought the Lions were the team to beat, and they crushed them. So yeah, I think the Commanders with the points is a safe play to take here from the litmus test.
Jet.
Yeah, Commanders, maybe sprinkle a little on that money line.
Give me the Eagles -6.
Whoa!
Eagles
Pop
were
turning his tune here.
They were 6-point favorites against the Rams. The
It
Commanders.
was a snow game. It was a snow game.
Snow game.
But that was so
we couldn't throw. We hardly threw the football. I mean,
yeah, but
we
you know
couldn't
what?
get
They
it going.
won by 6. Like
Pop, I will
right
say,
on no.
I think a lot of the public's going to be on the Commanders, Pop. So that's a good
too.
spot to be on the Eagles.
I also think everyone's going to be so high because they kicked the shit out of the #1 seed, the Detroit Lions, that was inside. They're coming to Philadelphia. It's going to be a little colder. I mean, I get it. They're a DC team. They're an East Coast team. They've played in the cold before, but it's a rookie quarterback going. I mean, that's going to be a huge environment for him. I know he's already won 2 playoff games, but in Philadelphia with that crowd, I think they're going to get to him. I think this is the buck stops here. I think the Eagles win by 7 to 10 points.
I'm shocked. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I'm shocked that it's a 6-point. To me, that's a 3-point game. It's like a 3.5 point.
But that's even more reason why tickets play might be smart, because the line being so high, you think a lot of people are going to be coaxed into taking the Commanders, I would imagine.
People are going to be all over. I think the Eagles are going to surprise you. I mean, check in with me next week if they happen to make it to the Super Bowl and they play, either the Bills or the Chiefs. That's a whole different story. But the Commanders, people are riding high after that game. I think they're going to get a real lesson.
Is there any world, Pop, if they win to go to the Super Bowl, that you would go?
Where is it? New Orleans?
It's in New Orleans.
It is in New Orleans. Not unless you get me tickets. No, I don't think so. I don't think there's any world where, I mean, I'm certainly not shopping for tickets. That's one thing I'll say. Um, yeah, so give me the Eagles minus the 6. I think they take care of business there. And then let's move on to the Bills Chiefs. Chiefs are favored by 2 points. It's in Kansas City. Over under 47.5. Who do you guys like?
Bills money line. That's what I'm going to
Wow.
take. I just feel like this is the year. I really feel. I know we've said this dozens of times in the past. And by the way, you want to talk about a time that I actually did jinx Jet. The last time these two played and then the AFC Championship, and we were fresh off of the Fireball Challenge. I was hammered, and the Bills scored a touchdown. There was like 13 seconds left in the game. I said, Jet, you did it. The Bills, they're going to win. And somehow, with 13 seconds left and no timeouts, Mahomes brought the team down and kicked the winning field, which is absurd. That being said, this is the year I do believe that I think that Josh has. I think he's going to turn a corner this year. I do think the Chiefs are beatable. I think the Bills are coming off of a high. They're going to be determined. I think this is the year that they do it. I really hope so. I really, because if Josh can go to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl, it will cement him as truly one of the best. Well, he already is, but it really will cement him as one of the best quarterbacks of our generation and put him in a position where he deserves to be. And being a friend of us, like it's just not he deserves it so much. So I'm gonna go Bills money line here, and I'm gonna hope that they finally knock off this Chiefs team who's had their number for it seems like an eternity.
Benjamin?
I listen, you would think Cutsy would have learned about the jinx from 2 years ago, but clearly he hasn't. With that being said, I'm right there with him. I know it's like don't bet. It's like back in the day of Patriots. Don't bet against Tom Brady. Don't bet against the Chiefs. Don't do this. Don't do that. I think this is the year. Like I really do. The Chiefs, in my opinion, are the worst they've. And I shouldn't say they're the worst, but they're the most chance to lose that they've had in these last bunch of years. And I know they lost to the Bengals a few years ago, but similar to that, the Bengals came into Arrowhead and beat them and went to the Super Bowl. I think the Bills can do the same if they just lock in. They're firing on all cylinders. The Chiefs are beatable. You get that pass rush to Mahomes. I think this is the year that they go.
You think they're more gettable this year than last year? I feel like their offense is a little bit better this year.
Yeah, I'm just saying from like they've played so many tight games this year. They played so
True.
many one possession games this year. They've been losing and had to come back. Like I think the Bills can beat that. You know what I mean? Like they've been playing one possession games against not good teams. So I
Hmm.
I, I think the truth is the Chiefs are also playing good ball right now. After starting on Christmas or even before that when they played Pittsburgh and they smoked them and they've just been firing since then. But I do
Chiefs don't
genuinely
have Rasheed Rice, who was one of their best receivers too throughout the year. That
Yeah.
definitely impacts them.
I
Yeah.
genuinely think the Bills are gonna. I think they can do it.
I do too. I think this is the Bills' year. I firmly believe it in my heart, but I got to see the Chiefs lose before I bet against them. And you know what?
Wow.
Like a couple times they won games this year on a blocked field goal. I think
Mm.
it's going to be a three
Uh,
point game. Bills drive down the field, try to kick a field goal. They block another one.
you know what? The
So
fucking
so give me the
the
Is
Chiefs
it
last
minus two.
Tyler Bass? Is that the
Bills
is it-
lost
Yeah,
last year on that because of field goals. I can't.
I
It's
know.
too much to handle. I can't imagine being a Bills fan. Like,
I
oh,
Oh,
I
it's got
pray
to be
dearly
exhausting.
that they win. I want them to win for Josh and just because fuck the Chiefs too. But I'm taking the Chiefs minus two. I think they're gonna get
get it,
it done again. They just find a way, man. And they've
get
got
it.
Taylor and Caitlin Clark on their side.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so give me them. All right, let's quickly do who's a problem, then we'll do a couple questions, then we'll get out of here. Joey D, you got a problem this week?
Yeah, Ben Johnson's my problem. The guy immediately gets hired as the Bears coach and proceeds to say he's going to enjoy beating Matt LaFleur twice a year. How about you focus on the absolute massive task that you have, which is to get this Bears team right, which has not been right for a long time. Now, is he offensive mastermind? Sure. But does that mean he's going to translate to a great coach? I don't know. I think a lot of Bears fans are celebrating as they should, but thinking that he's going to be, the saving grace to this team. This guy immediately takes a shot at the Packers And it's like, bro, you don't even know what you're undertaking with this Bears team right now. Now, the Bears finished as good as they could have, beaten the Packers to end the year. But it's just like the Bears so focused for how many years now is to beat the Packers. It's like you have more things to worry about than just beating the Green Bay Packers, who wasn't, they weren't, the Packers this year weren't even the top team in the NFC North. They weren't even the second best team in the NFC North. So, yeah, maybe you might beat the Packers, but the Bears have a lot more pressing matters on their hands than that. And I just thought, like, it was such it got under my skin hearing him say that. So he's my problem for the week. Now, that being said, I do think you guys got the best candidate you could have, Jet, for a coach. Whether or not it makes a difference, we'll see what happens.
All right, I'll go next and we'll finish with the Jet. I got a good problem, and as always, it's not sports related. It's Terminal B of the Punta Cana Airport. These guys are unbelievable. We had a VIP service for these guys, but I was going elsewhere, so I was in a whole different terminal. The security, the checked bag, I had to go through. I didn't have VIP over there. I had to go through the regular. I was flying. These guys were just tossing passports around. They were just like scanning them like that guy in Bob's video just at the checkout. He was just scanning passport, flying us through. You get to security with the bins and everything. It looked like Willy Wonka's factory. There was chocolate. There were conveyor belts. They were just flying us through there. Everything stays in the bag. Shoes stay on. Maybe they're not doing it good. It was unbelievable. And it took me like 5 minutes to get through the whole damn thing. And maybe for the wrong reasons, I thought it was going to be a nightmare just in being in a foreign country. But I mean, they're doing it better than anybody I've ever seen. It's unbelievable.
You see the food options too in the waiting area.
I wasn't in the lounge, Joey D. But I'm
talking about. There was a Wendy's, Taco Bell. There were tons of stuff.
It was great. It was phenomenal. Yeah, it was one of the better Dave's Doubles that I've had, and it was in Punta Cana, believe it or not. So they're a good problem. Terminal B of the Punta Cana Airport. Jet, who's your problem this week?
My problem is fans who jinx sports bets. I just don't think it's a good thing. You know, when you're coming down to win your bet and you got your boy next to you telling you it's over and you won and then you get a blocked field goal, it's kind of fucked. So I'm going with that. With that being said, by the way, on your point, I have an also problem now that you mentioned that. Is a dumb question, but is TSA worldwide or is that just a US thing?
I think it's a US thing because they didn't have pre-check in Punta Cana.
We were in Punta Cana leaving, and they go, "Wait, you got to keep your shoes on in regular? You went through regular."
Through regular. Yeah, you guys were VIP, but even in regular.
We went through also, they were like, keep your shoes on. And it really got me thinking that even in America, if you do pre-check, they let you take your shoes off, right? Or if you're over 65, they let you take your shoes off. But if not, or they
keep your shoes on.
Shoes on, right? They let you keep your shoes on. But if you're not, you have to take your shoes off. And it's like,
what does a 65-year-old have that I don't?
Well, yeah. And what does the pre-check guy have that I don't? He's less likely to do something like what I understand. Somebody over 65 can't pull some shenanigans on an airplane. I don't get it. It makes no sense to me. I think that they want everybody to do TSA because they get to background check you if you go through TSA, and then they just have more intel on you.
Yeah,
when they want to plant a murder on you, they have your fingerprint now, or they have whatever they need to do it. So, and then for the older people who are over 65, it's like, what do you mean? Like, there's some angry 67-year-olds out there. Like, I don't know who's. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. So those are my.
You're supposed to be retiring and in the twilight years of your life, happy, and
if they don't have to take their shoes off, nobody should.
Yeah, but if you're trying to do some shenanigans, all you got to do is recruit a 65-year-old man and put it in his shoe because they're not checking. So
it's like Clint Eastwood in The Mule.
Yeah, and the other thing, by the way, that movie, that was an okay movie. 80% of that movie was driving on a highway in a drone shot. It was absurd. Did you watch that? I saw the movie. It was
a good movie. It had a horrible ending.
The whole movie is a car ride back and forth. And then it's absurd. Back to the TSA. The other thing with these guys, Every airport has a different method. They got different machines. Some places you have to take out the laptop. Some you got to take, some you do this. And they expect you to know so that when you ask, they like laugh in your face. They're like, what are you, a fucking idiot? Take off and take out your laptop. And you're like, yeah, but last week I was in Atlanta and they made me keep in the laptop. And here I'm there. And they, with all due respect, figure it out. And they like laugh at you. It's insane. We travel a lot and we get laughed at. All right.
All right, there we go. All right, let's move on to viewer questions, and then we'll get out of here. First question comes from Bailey. Fuck, marry, kill NFL commentators: Greg Olson, Tom Brady, Tony Romo.
Tony Romo's lost the step. I'll kill Tony Romo. I'll marry Greg Olson because he's been doing it for a while, and I'll fuck around with Tom Brady.
I'm the exact same. Tom Brady hasn't proved, like, he's been great in my opinion, but he hasn't proven it yet. Like, I mean, he
hasn't been bad though. He has not been bad.
Greg Olson got freaking fleeced by Fox because he was amazing, and then they just booted him for Brady to the second team. And Romo, like Cutsy said, is going back.
Yeah, I don't know, Jim.
He's going. You know what Romo's issue is? You know what his main problem is? And I was telling about this to Bob, and then I saw it on Twitter after I said it to Bob. He never lets, besides everything else, he never lets the moment happen. Like last year, the touchdown is scored to win the Super Bowl, and instead of just being quiet and letting like it happen and he's just screaming about some nonsense on some matchup with a wide receiver. Every big play, once Nance gives his call, instead of letting it sit and quiet as you like can take it all in as a fan, he's just blabbering about nothing. It's crazy. You're gonna notice it now, Pop.
I have already had. It's a good point.
Yeah.
I like him though. I like it.
Yeah, he's a goofy
like
dude.
it.
Who are you doing?
He's
Pop?
a
What are
goofy
you doing?
goober. I'm gonna fuck Tony Romo. I am. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna marry Greg Olson. I'm gonna get rid of Tom Brady. I like it. I enjoy how funny he is. It's funny to laugh at him. All right, let's move on here. The next question comes from Patrick Stewart. Sir Patrick Stewart. Where would you want an NFL expansion team?
West Palm.
NHL. I was trying to think.
You said NHL or NFL?
NFL.
Well, they should bring.
I would have said before Vegas, but they just got the team in Vegas, so that was really good.
I was going to say they should bring a team to Chicago. They don't have one there.
I'd love them to bring a team to Toronto. Have a Canadian team. That would be cool.
Yeah, I agree. That's really good.
Every other league, you have a Canadian team, right? In NBA, NHL. And they used to, when the Bills were bad for a while, they experimented with bringing the Bills, having them play in Toronto, and the fan base was wild. And again, they're just across from New York, like literally they're a waterfall across from New York. So I don't think the travel would be that tough. I think it would be another team that people would go to watch. Why not bring a Canadian market back into it, or not back into it, but into the play? I think it would be really cool.
But the CFL would probably be pissed about that, no? Like, wouldn't that be
CFL's?
I know, but I just think that's probably what's holding them. Like, I don't know.
I think it would get well received. I think the NFL in Canada is huge. Like, people watch it. It's crazy big. You bring a team to Toronto, even if you're not in Toronto, like, people would just cheer for them because it would be Canada's team. I think it would be a huge hit.
I'll go with Charleston, South Carolina. I love it there. They need a team. They absolutely need a team. Or somewhere in Alabama. Clearly those people love their football down there. Birmingham, something like that. And the last question comes from Caleb Cortega. Is Ben Johnson the answer? I'm going to go with Jed here. What do you think he's going to change things in Chicago? Is he the answer for you?
I mean, they'll score a few more points, but I don't know. We're gonna. I don't know.
I don't know, Jim.
I would say I hope so, but I don't know.
And
I'll tell you what, you got to be happy that at least it's not Mike McCarthy, because that would have been
my God,
horrifying.
I thought
that was going to happen. I thought it was going to happen.
So
Mike
you guys,
McCarthy would just be Lovie Smith for another fucking 10 years. Like, oh my God, you want to talk about middle of the road vanilla ice cream like type fucking coaches? Like, Those are the guys who are like old school, like fucking, they would never go for it on fourth down. Though McCarthy kind of has changed his ways a little bit, but listen, you win a Super Bowl once and you're a good coach forever. That's how it works somehow.
It was
Sure.
lining up for you guys to get Mike McCarthy, man. It would have been all too perfect. But you
I'll
did the
tell you,
right thing.
it is a little. I think you cuts your who's a problem with Ben Johnson. It has been a little weird how like an hour and a half after like his team lost, he's like on the Bears. He's like,
I
he's like,
know.
yeah, Chicago. He's like, I've always wanted to be here. And it's like if you're a Lions fan, you got to be like, yo, this is a brutal business because that's nonsense.
He literally hadn't lost 24 hours prior to going on. He looked like the happiest man in
Rival.
America. I'm like, bro, I get it. You just got paid and you just got a new job, but like, you just got booted out of the playoffs when you're a favored to win the Super Bowl. That's tough.
It's I didn't want Mike McCarthy because he used to coach for the Packers, and now Ben Johnson is like he wasn't a head coach for the Lions, but you're just like they're kind of a rival. It's interesting, you know.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Listen, you want to pay me? I don't care who I was working for now. Okay.
Well, that's not good to hear, Pop. Not good for us.
All right. Anyway, that's another episode of the Sportsman. Joey D, as always, thanks for coming on, Jet. And as we said earlier, Mikey will be missed, but the show goes on. And for the Sportsman, appreciate it. Another good one, and we will see everyone next week.